Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe to my channel for more exciting videos. Under the bright studio lights of Good Morning Britain, always appeared calm, confident, and in control. But behind that polished smile was a story far more human, one shaped by love, heartbreak, courage, and difficult choices. Susanna's journey through relationships was never about numbers, it was about meaning. Over the years, she experienced a few significant relationships, each one teaching her something new about herself. In her younger days, like many people, she believed in fairy tale endings. Love felt magical, effortless, and destined. But reality, as she soon discovered, had its own plans. Her most well-known long-term relationship was with journalist Dominic Cotton, with whom she shared many years and 3 children. That chapter of her life was deeply important, filled with shared dreams, responsibilities, and moments of joy. Although their relationship eventually ended, Susanna never described it as a failure. Instead, she saw it as a meaningful part of her journey, a bond that brought beautiful memories and shaped her as a person and a mother. But what many people don't know is that Susanna also faced moments of quiet heartbreak, times when she had to say no. Throughout her life, she received a handful of genuine proposals, some romantic, some unexpected. Each one came with its own emotional weight. It wasn't easy turning them down. Imagine being faced with someone offering you a future, a promise, forever, and having to gently refuse. She reportedly rejected several proposals over the years, not because she didn't believe in love, but because she believed in the right kind of love. One proposal came from someone who adored her deeply, but she knew their lives were moving in different directions. Another came at a time when her career was taking off, and she wasn't ready to give up her independence. There was even a moment when she almost said yes, but something inside her whispered that it wasn't truly right. Those decisions weren't easy. Saying no meant choosing uncertainty over comfort. It meant walking away from something secure in search of something real. Susanna once reflected that rejecting a proposal isn't about hurting someone, it's about being honest, both with them and with yourself. And that honesty became her strength. As time passed, her perspective on relationships evolved. Love was no longer about fairy tales, it was about respect, understanding, and timing. She learned that it's better to wait for something genuine than to settle for something convenient. Today, Susanna stands as a symbol of independence and emotional intelligence. She doesn't define her life by how many relationships she's had or how many proposals she's turned down. Instead, she defines it by the courage to make the right choices, even when they were the hardest ones. Her story reminds us that love isn't a race or a checklist. It's a journey, sometimes messy, sometimes beautiful, but always meaningful. And perhaps the most powerful part of her story is this: she never lost faith in love. She simply chose to wait for the kind that truly fits her life. Because in the end, it's not about how many times you say yes or no, it's about saying it for the right reasons. The story doesn't end with a few relationships or a handful of rejected proposals, it deepens, becoming even more inspiring as the years go on. As her career soared, especially during her time on, Susanna found herself constantly in the public eye. Millions watched her every morning, yet very few truly understood the emotional strength it took to balance fame, motherhood, and personal life. After her long-term relationship ended, there was a period of quiet reflection. It wasn't filled with drama or headlines, but with something far more powerful: self-discovery. For the first time in years, Susanna wasn't defined by being part of a couple. She was simply herself. And that's when things began to change. Friends would often encourage her to start dating again. Some even tried to play matchmaker, introducing her to successful, charming individuals who seemed perfect on paper. And yes, there were more proposals, or at least serious intentions. People were drawn to her intelligence, her warmth, and her authenticity. But Susanna had learned something invaluable by then. Not everyone who offers love understands your life. One particular moment stood out. She met someone who seemed ideal, kind, supportive, and genuinely interested in building a future together. Their connection was real, and for a while, it felt like this could finally be the one. But as time passed, subtle differences began to appear. He wanted a quieter life, away from the spotlight. Susanna, on the other hand, had worked hard to build her career and wasn't ready to step back from it. When he eventually hinted at taking their relationship to the next level, Susanna faced another difficult decision. Once again, she chose honesty. She didn't reject him because he wasn't good enough. She rejected the idea of a future that didn't align with who she truly was. And that moment defined her. Because by then, Susanna understood that love should never require you to shrink yourself. Over time, she became more selective, not in a cold or distant way, but in a deeply self-aware way. She no longer chased relationships, nor did she feel pressured by society's expectations. While others might count relationships or measure success by marriage, Susanna measured her life differently. She measured it by peace, by happiness, by the ability to wake up every day and feel proud of the choices she made. There were still moments of loneliness, of course. She was human, after all. There were evenings when the house felt a little too quiet, when the idea of companionship seemed comforting. But even in those moments, she never allowed herself to settle for less than she deserved. Because she knew something many people spend their whole lives trying to learn. Being alone is far better than being in the wrong relationship. As a mother, she also carried a deeper responsibility. She wanted to set an example for her children, not just about love, but about self-respect. She wanted them to grow up understanding that relationships should add to your life, not define it. And so, Susanna Reid's story isn't about how many relationships she's had, or how many proposals she's rejected. It's about why she made those choices. It's about strength in moments of doubt. It's about choosing authenticity over expectation. It's about believing that the right kind of love will never ask you to compromise who you are. And maybe, just maybe, her story is still being written. Because somewhere in the future, there could be a love that doesn't require rejection. A love that fits effortlessly into the life she has built. Until then, Susanna continues to shine, confident, independent, and unapologetically herself.